It's an honor to be here at the opening ceremony of the 95th Florida of FFA conference right here in Orlando. Now, before I get started, there's a few folks I want to recognize that it's important. Now, first I want to start off Wilton Simpson is the commissioner. Commissioner, I see you there. So y'all please give the Commissioner of Agriculture a round of applause. Can I tell you how nice it is to have somebody in the Commissioner of Ag's office that actually knows something about agriculture? And then you got your former secretary, Representative Chuck Brandon. Chuck is a dear friend of mine. Y'all please give it up for Chuck Brandon. You're so fortunate to have advocates like Chuck Brandon and Chuck Clemens in the Florida legislature. Again, they're tireless fighters for what is so great about this organization, and they carry it forward with their policies they advocate for every single legislative session. Now, last thing I want to bring up Annalise real quick. Annalise, where you at? Come on up here. She's here somewhere. Madam President, where'd you go? Here she comes. Y'all give it up. This is one of my challenge coins. I only got one on me, but I wanted to give it to you as a special thanks for your sacrifice and leadership to the organization. God bless you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. You know, it's a lot that these young men and women take on this opportunity. And I just told them in the back, and I said, don't forget, there are students out there that are looking up to you. They're seeing this opportunity and officers one day. So leadership by those young men and women. Like who is this guy and how long am I have to sit here and listen to this? The answer to that question is I really don't know. Like a lot of you students, when you wrote your papers in high school, you may have used Chat GPT to write those papers. Well, I did the same thing. So this is my first time reading my speech, so for better or for worse, we're kind of on this journey together. But my name is Jimmy Patronis. I'm the state of Florida's Chief Financial Officer. And when I serve the state's Chief Financial Officer, when you're the CFO, that means when you state of Florida pays for something, my signature is on the bottom of it. I'm also the state fire marshal. Now, my office does a lot more than that, but I'm not here to give you a lesson in Florida government. Tonight is about you. It's not about me. Unlike most people here in this room, I don't have a green thumb, but my family does have a tree farm in Northern Bay County. In fact, it wasn't that long ago, we were Tree Farmers of the Year for the state of Florida. So, Commissioner, if you ever need any advice, I'm right across the hallway from you if you need anything. But for the most part, my family's been in the restaurant business, as Chuck said, for about 60 years. My family has an 800-seat restaurant in Panama City. My daddy started it with my uncle. Where's our Bozeman folks? Come on, stand up, Bozeman. Thank y'all for being here. So my dad and uncle started the place about 60 years ago, and you know, it's tough keeping a family business going. My brothers are there now, my nieces and nephews are there with them. But I can't imagine how many heads of lettuce, cases of tomatoes, boxes of cucumbers, potatoes I've cut up and diced over the years. I've never done the math on how much rice and flour we've gone through or how many gallons of milk or boxes of fresh fruits have gone into our desserts. But all I know is that we couldn't do it if it wasn't for the farmers being able to do their job. The way that food shows up on the trucks, on store shelves is something I truly think we take for granted. There's no denying it. The quality of the fruits and vegetables and meats make the difference between the good restaurants and the rest of the others. Now, look, I love agriculture because of my office as CFO also. Everyone here understands the importance agriculture plays in the Florida economy, but let me just share some statistics with you. Florida agriculture represents over 17% of the state's workforce. That's 1.4 million people. Friends, that's more than the entire state of South Dakota, okay? I mean, it's a massive influence that you have in the state's economy. Your economy is only second to tourism in the state of Florida. You generate over $129 billion every single year in the state of Florida, and that's an amazing feat. But you think about all that, it's important. Our office needs to respect it. We need to harness it. We need to elevate it. So, you know, we even have an outreach coordinator for our state of Florida. I got a young man by the name of Chase Brandon. Where's Chase at? Chase, stand up, Chase. Y'all see Chase up here in front? I'm a big believer that people meet people. So Chase has got a bunch of business cards. I hope you got about 4,500 of them on you, because all these folks are going to need to get to know you. Again, thank you for what you do there, buddy. But I'm a big people person. I love huge gatherings just like this, and the conventions like this is where you're going to meet people that you're going to connect in your field and learn how to better yourself. I'll learn by talking. If you haven't figured that out, I love talking to people. But this is an opportunity that I also got to learn from all of you and hear what is important. And you think about those fields, those ranchers, those farmers, those agricultural entrepreneurs. So if you'll oblige me, let's do a little quick poll here a second. Now, again, you got to indulge me a little bit because the lights are bright and y'all look like a big black room. So by a show of hands, who wants to see the federal government play a larger role in how you do business? Interesting. By a show of hands, who do you think, do any of you think that Washington, D.C. makes American farming better? Now, who thinks we need less government and leave the farming to the farmers? Okay. Now, and for the students, who'd just rather be on TikTok? I hear some of y'all. Okay, so look, let's do this. This is going to be a little bit of audience participation. Y'all stand. If you got a cell phone, I want you to stand up. Especially the students. This is a student exercise. If you're a student and you got your cell phone, take it out. I'm giving you a second. And I want you to take a photo of yourself. Take a selfie with your friends. And I want you to document this moment. And what I want you to do is send it to your mama and daddy. Now, you wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for your mama and daddy that love you and take care of you, and they care about you. So send them that photo. And look, if you got that photo, the commissioner and I am on Twitter. So you can tag us. If you go to Twitter, I'm at Jimmy Patronis. He's at Wilton Simpson. Follow us. We'll retweet you, and we'd love to be a part of your social media network. Now look, getting back to our original question while I was asking about government regulation. I think that the coronavirus was a watershed moment in our country. Before COVID, there was a narrative that government made things safer. I think we all went through the COVID response with government and saw that the appointed experts didn't necessarily have all the right answers. They said we needed to shut down. They said we needed masks. They said if you were vaccinated, it wouldn't transmit the virus. They said there's no way this came from China. I personally think they were all wrong. Now, I don't know what they were talking about, but I know this. I know we paid a price for it. And I think about COVID, and I think about other industries that were affected that are regulated just like the agriculture industry. Now, if there wasn't for the rules and regulations, farming would be very different today. I think you'd probably save a lot of time, and you'd definitely save a lot of energy. Now, here's a little pet peeve that I've got that my team and I've been talking about. We're going to talk about milk for a minute. Now, there's a developing market right now for unpasteurized or raw milk. They call it pet milk. You can go to farmers markets, you can buy it. But it may be labeled as pet milk, but consumers drink it because they're becoming more self-conscious about what's going into our milk and our products and our foods. Now, the reason they're drinking pet milk is because it's been regulated like that for since the 1980s, so this is the only way you can get it. Now, I don't have the expertise to know whether or not it's good or bad, but after seeing what the quote experts said regarding COVID, it really makes me want to rethink a lot of the notions and preconceived notions that our government's pushed out. So no matter about it, the fact is that these guys don't necessarily make life easier, and it's definitely a lot harder for farmers to try to make a living. Now, there's so many rules that we've had to endure in this whole post-COVID environment that we're in. The regulations have been on the books for decades, and we want to try to see if we can help farmers make a living, a better living, without as much red tape. Now, so the second question I have is, look, there's been a global movement, and where did this global movement come to shut down farming? Now, more importantly, there's a war brewing against our farmers. Now, I'm going to talk about Western Europe for a minute. If you look at what's going on in the Netherlands right now, the Dutch export about $130 billion of agricultural products every single year. But the EU wants to pay over $1 billion to stop farming because they want to reduce nitrogen, and they claim it's better for the environment. Now, I've been the most pro-environment CFO in the history of the state. I think my family's livelihood depends on the turquoise waters of the Gulf of Mexico and the seafood industry. And look, I know the BP oil spill was a tragedy for the Panhandle, but when you have a profitable industry and your country is finding ways to shut it down, that makes 0 sense to me. The future is going to be filled with more people, and these people will need to be able to access food to eat. By the way, the Dutch farmers didn't like any of this either. They had protests with their tractors. They were labeled as white ring extremists. I can't think of anything that is better for the environment than farming. There's nothing that helps connect people with the earth than farming, plain and simple. Now, yeah, you give that one a round of applause. Now, this leads me to my third question is, how are we supposed to feed all these people in the coming decades? Projections are showing that by 2050, we're going to have 9 billion people on this little place we call Earth, and we're going to need to increase our agriculture output by over 70% in order to meet those demands. Now, when I saw that number, it makes me understand why Bill Gates in the communist country of China wants to go out and buy up all this farmland. Now, if you want to control people, you don't need guns, you don't need bombs. All you need to do is control the food supply. And if you got about 1,000 people a day moving to the state of Florida, and they're leaving the failed states of New York and Illinois and California and all those other places you're never going to move to. And then you look, as we drive through central Florida, you're seeing the farmlands and the orange groves starting to be converted into suburbs. So that's why I'm a proud member of the Florida Cabinet. I get to work with Wilton, and some of the things that we've accomplished have been good to ensure that farming exists for future generations of Floridians. In fact, in the last meeting that we had, to protect the right to farm, we invested over $60 million to make sure that we retain farmlands and protect the right to farm in the state of Florida. And that was led by a large part by Commissioner Wilton Simpson. Thank you, sir, for your leadership. But since I took office in 2017, the state of Florida has acquired about 200,000 acres of land. We've spent about $400 million to promote those agricultural easements to ensure that farmers and ranchers can conduct their business with little or no tax burden. But I do think we need to understand more deeply that we're going to need to feed more people with less acreage. So when Western countries are shutting down farms for greenhouse gas emissions like China, but then China's building coal plants to the left and to the right, and they're investing in farming, it really makes me think, getting back to my original question, does DC have their eye on the ball? Do they really know what they're doing to protect our domestic agricultural interests? In fact, the more food that we can produce on our own and rely less on other countries is a good thing. No different than energy. I would much rather get my energy from Texas and Alaska as opposed to the Middle East or Venezuela. At the end of the day, we need to strengthen Florida agriculture to be better positioned for our growing economy to keep our country safe. Look, I don't want blueberries from Peru. I want them from Gainesville. I don't want shrimp from China. I want them from Gulf County. And I don't want my squash from Canada. I want it from St. Cloud. If Washington doesn't start viewing America, agriculture, as a strategic resource, future generations of Americans are going to be in a world of hurt. So look, I'm going to wrap up. All of you, I know all of you are laser focused on preserving agriculture for the state of Florida. Farming is, especially on a mass scale, is complex. It's hard and it's challenging work. But I think the more, this is honest to truth, I think the more that we take farming for granted, the weaker our country becomes, period. That's saying, I think there's a saying, we're 3 meals away from anarchy, and I believe this. Agriculture is a fundamental building block of our society. And I promise everyone here that you may not care about politics, but politics cares about you. So, for our country to succeed, we need future generations of farmers to find prosperity and flourish. So look, I'd say by the looks of this room, our state is in good hands. But we can't let the federal bureaucrats tell you how, where, and when you can farm. And as long as I've got this job, I promise I'll do everything in my power to protect that right for you.